Kum len in a black gemara. We are up to Masechta Tainis that Yud Gimel Amid Aleph, and we're up to 5 lines on the top of the page. We're still continuing talking about, accepting upon yourself a fast day. Amar Rav Chizah said, Ko shuhu mishum avil, any fast day which has to do with mourning, going, for example, Tisha B'Av, and especially a avil, somebody's a mourner in their own right. Also, they're not allowed to bathe themselves. You said before the 5 things you're not allowed to do, the inuyim. You have to deny yourself any of these pleasures. It's forbidden to bathe yourself not only bechamin in hot water, but Rav Chizda's chiddush bein b'tzayin. Cannot even use cold water on oval for the 7 days, or Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to wash yourself even in cold water. Kol shehu mishum tainug, but any fast day which has to do with pleasure. For example, it hasn't rained, so therefore we're in a state of discomfort. Pleasure means discomfort. Keep going tiny tzibur, then bechamin also. Then you're not allowed to take a bath in hot water because that's pleasurable, and you're supposed to deny yourself that. But b'tzayin mutter, cold water, it's not really pleasurable, therefore it is permitted. That's a chizah chiddush. And avu and Tisha B'Av, even cold water is forbidden. Rabbi Barovin said, I don't understand. He's asking a question. Usually when we say these words, it's sort of to support a supporting statement. Here he's asking a question. Why do I need Rav Chizah to tell me something which is so obvious from the Mishnah itself? Then we learned that yesterday in the Mishnah. It said in the Mishnah, the noyelin es hamechatzos. Not only is it forbidden to take a bath on these fast days here, but you also shut down all of the all of the stores. Now, see, why are you shutting down? Shutting down all the bathhouses. Now, why are you shutting down all the bathhouses? Isn't it because you're shutting down for the hot water and the cold water? You don't think any kind of a bath. So what's Rav Chizah telling us? Abaye said, I don't understand what the proof is. A bathhouse is only hot water. So all it's telling us is you're not allowed to take a bath in hot water. Where is he telling us you're not allowed to take a bath in cold water? According to you, if he wants to tell us not to take a bath in cold water, he should have added, and he should. I mean, what other choice? The Mishnah had no choice. What else can we do? How do we prevent you from taking a bath in cold water? Or shut down all the rivers and lakes? Obviously, it's not possible. But what is possible is to shut down hot water. Don't infer from the Mishnah that we're not shutting down the cold water because you're allowed to. Only by the ibid sign and usher. And if, let's say, cold water is forbidden, what do you want the Mishnah to say? We'll close up all the rivers? Obviously, it's not possible. Rav Shishi, Rav Idi's son, came to rally to the defense of his father, and he said, you totally misunderstood my father. This will bother my father. Mechdi, once the Mishnah told us, I'll take a bath. Why is the Mishnah telling us that you now take a bath? Because if you now take a bath, then obviously, what's the point of the bathhouses being open? What do you have to tell us to shut down the bathhouses? On the contrary, isn't it coming to tell you that it's a question on Rav Chizah? You, Rav Chizah, say that's forbidden cold water. No, the Mishnah is stressing the only thing that's forbidden is hot water, and therefore Shmam B'chamin. So the Mishnah therefore tells you we don't want to take a bath. Hot water is forbidden, but b'tzayin mutter, cold water is permitted. So this is Rav Idi's question of Chizah. You, Rav Chizah, say that it's forbidden hot water and cold water. It's clear in the Mishnah only hot water is forbidden because only the chatzayis are closed, and cold water permitted. And what's my proof? My proof is why bother telling us the bathhouse should be closed? Obviously, if nobody can take a bath, it'll be closed. You're telling us as if to say it's only limited to hot water, cold water permitted, and therefore we have a question of Chizah. Says the Gemara doesn't answer. Gemara lema mesayele. On the other hand, let me bring us up. Okay, let's say the Mishnah seems to indicate not like Rav Chizda, but let me bring you a proof for someone else to Rav Chizda, and that is as follows. Let me bring you a proof to Rav Chizda, who says that anything to do with mourning is also even cold water. It says the following. It says kol chayave tefillas, all those that have an obligation to go to mikveh, like a woman who is a nida, a woman that gave birth. So they if whatever night it falls out on, they go to the mikveh. Bein b'Tisha B'Av, even if it falls out on Tisha B'Av, bein b'Yom Kippurim, even if it falls out on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur. What are we talking about? Ilema b'chami. Are we talking about hot water? Are we talking about hot water? Tvila b'chami mi'ika. Who goes to the mikveh? Who goes to the mikveh in hot water? We don't have mikveh hot water. Why not? She'uveninu. She'uven mayim, that hot water is mayim she'uven. How do you get hot water? Naturally, water is not hot. So you have to heat it up on the fire and then put it into the mikveh. So you can't have a hot water mikveh. Elalav b'tzayne. We're talking about. Traces wants to bring a proof from this Gemara right here. That you're not allowed to have a hot water mikveh, nor we have a concept where, let's say, water is she'uvin, drawn. If you let it then snake its way through the ground, pour it out on the ground, it snakes its way through the ground, then it falls into a big vat. Then it becomes kosher. So traces from here clearly, you see that you can't have a hot water mikveh that way either. Otherwise, Mari could have said, yes, that's what happened. You could have a hot water mikveh. And what we're leading to here is that we're talking about a cold water mikveh, and of course they have a mitzvah and so on and so forth. They're allowed to go to cold water mikveh, but no one else is allowed to go to cold water. So we want to use that to prove a chizah. So your mother wants to say it can't be hot water because you can't have a hot water mikveh. So take from here you can prove even going snaking through the ground, you cannot have a hot water mikveh. It says elsewhere that a hot water is all right. That's talking about that if you pour hot water into a proper mikveh, it's all right. But to create an entire mikveh from hot water is forbidden. The Mordechai comes along and says that even pouring hot water into a mikveh should be forbidden with the Rabbanon, because we're scared next time you'll have mayim she'uvin. Next time you go into a bathhouse. In Shulchan Aruch, we sort of have a machlekes whether that's correct or not correct, whether we're geyser, but Yosef holds a geyser. The Ramah says that maybe we can be mekel, and we're not going to be geyser if you pour hot water into the mikveh. And the Alter Rebbe came out in his time already and said that you can use hot water mikvahs, and since then everybody uses hot water mikvahs. And you can imagine in Russia, in the winter, how difficult it was for women to go to the mikveh if it wasn't hot. Anyway, getting back to argument here. We're talking about cold water because you can't have a hot water mikveh, cold water mikveh, and yet the only people allowed to go to cold water on Yom Kippur is in Tisha B'Av are only people who have a mitzvah to go that night. So we see, but everybody else, even cold water is forbidden. Proves Rav Chizda's point. The Chayav Tfilas only Chayav is allowed to go, and nobody else is allowed to go. Doesn't that prove the Chizda's point? No proof. You want to say it's a proof that's not arguing with you in halacha, but a proof it is. Why not? We're talking about chametz. Why can't we talk about chametz, which is naturally happened? That is kosher for a mikveh, and that's what he's saying. It that a woman who has a chiv of nida that night she go to mikveh, she can go, but nobody else can go. But cold water, maybe everybody can go. So that's a question. Aim a sefer. Look at the next part of the sefer. Rav Chizda disagrees. He says no. On Yom Kippur Tisha B'Av, wait a night. Kedaihu beis alekenu. Especially even Tisha B'Av is only Rabbanon. It's worthy because of the loss that we had. We lost Hashem's house. La'abed olot tefillah b'machal b'shana. So once a year you miss the night and you push it off to another night. Now, Rav Chizda is lamenting the fact that you're so worried about whatever your personal life. What about the fact we lost the base of Mikdash? If the law is that cold water is permitted for everybody, so why didn't what's Reb Chanina saying? Reb Chanina should have said, go to a cold water mikveh, even stronger. Who said you have to have, especially at summertime, Tisha B'Av? Who said you have to have a hot water, go to cold water, and you're allowed to lechatchila? That's what he should have said, not say push off your mikveh till the next night. The Yamna b'tzayin mut yichid b'tzayin, and then you have an alternative. You have an option. Go ahead and bathe yourself with cold water. So doesn't that prove? So the Gemara says that therefore, obviously, that it's a proof to Rav Chizda. There's no option. You cannot use cold water. Says the Gemara, Papa, no, that's not a proof. Maybe we're talking about Ba'asa in a region de There's no lakes. It's inland somewhere. There's no bodies of water. The only option you have is hot water. And Rav Chizda said, even so, you'll miss out. You miss out. Churban Beis Hamikdash is enough reason warrants that you should not have any pleasures on Tisha B'Av, so therefore you just avoid it. You just don't go to mikveh. So there's no proof here one way or another. Kashmak, I'll try being another proof. When they say that also malacha, when they say by a tiny tzibur, you're not allowed to work, lo amru ella b'yayin. They meant by day you're not allowed to work, aval b'layla muter, by night you're allowed to work. And the Rashi says over here, Rashi normally doesn't pass on halachas, but he says over here, since we're talking about the tiny tzibur, the second set and the third set, when we say that you're not allowed to work, and it's only by day, so Rashi would say, but Tisha B'Av as well, you're allowed to work. When we say you're not allowed to work on Tisha B'Av, you don't see Sim Bracha, it's only by day, but not by night. And then Rashi concludes, "Aval ein mefarsim min hadavar." Don't tell anybody. It's always odd when we say halacha. At night you're allowed to wear but halacha v'eimer, don't tell anybody. So as if to say, if you are a Talmid Chacham and you learn from Shas and you come across these things, you have a prerogative, you have certain leniencies that we allow you to do. For example, Tisha B'Av, you can work through the night, but if you don't learn and somebody asks you a shayla, don't tell them that they can't. That's what Rashi says. But Rashi elsewhere learns that at night also you're not allowed to work on Tisha B'Av. Anyway, they want to continue. When they say, also, b'dilasani, you'll wear shoes. L'amr will be only living, only in the city. But if you're traveling, you're allowed to. For traveling purposes, you're allowed to. So, okay, so what do? When you're going out on the road in the middle of the country, in the country, you wear normal shoes. But so you enter the city, you remove your shoes and you don't wear your shoes. Then what does that do with us? Nothing. But the next part. When we say we're going to make a distinction between your entire body or just your hands and face. But your hands and your face and your leg and your feet, mutter, you're allowed to bathe yourself. So we're making a distinction between your hand and your face and your the entire body, and we have two choices. Are we talking about hot water here or cold water? Are we talking about hot water here, and we're saying that hot water you're not allowed to do the whole body, but you're allowed to do your hands and face on Tisha B'Av when you Kippur, or on these fast days? These fast days, or are you talking about even cold water? That cold water you're allowed to wash your hands and face. For the rest of the body, even cold water you're not allowed to. And if that's the pshat here, then we have a proof to Rav Chizda. So which way is it? You want to explain? Then the Brayso then continues. You find there's somebody who's an outcast who's put in cherem and by a mourner. By a mourner, he's allowed to wash his hands and face and feet, but not allowed to wash the entire body. Now, what are we talking about? My love, akulu. What we say over here, the same thing applies to a mourner. We're talking about all these three dinim. We're talking about the din of working, we're talking about the din of wearing shoes, and we're talking about bathing yourself. So the same laws apply to a mourner. So let's analyze it. Who am I asking? What are we talking about? We're talking about hot water. Panov Yadav V'Raglav Misharu. When it comes to hot water, your face, your hands, and your feet, are you permitted? Well, you're making a distinction in your whole body and your hands and your feet. Are you saying that your whole body is forbidden hot water, but your hands and face are permitted with hot water? One Rav Sheshes said that an oval, a mourner, even just a finger to place in hot water, you're not allowed to. When it comes to hot water, it makes no difference the entire body, your hands and your feet. So if we're making a distinction between your hands and your feet and your entire body, obviously we're talking about cold water. So we see that cold water, your entire body is forbidden, even for a mourner. Exactly what Rav Chizda said. No cold water. Doesn't this support Rav Chizda? So we're like, no, we're talking about cham, we're talking about hot water. I asked a very simple question. We're talking about hot water. How is there a difference between your hands and your feet and your entire body? Both of them are forbidden for a mourner. So I said, you're right, they are. Who told you that the same rules apply to a mourner? We're talking about the case of bathing. We're talking about the other two cases, the shoes, and we're talking about the case of working. What it says, the same thing applies to talking about wearing shoes and smearing, all of those things. That's what we're talking about, but not about when it comes to bathing yourself. Could maybe Rav Chizda is wrong. When it comes to bathing yourself, maybe you're allowed. Maybe when it comes to bathing yourself, you're not allowed to bathe yourself. Sorry, you're allowed to bathe yourself with cold water, and therefore we're talking about you're allowed to bathe yourself with cold water. And yeah, so they went further. Right. So in other words, by an oval, it makes no difference in your hands and your face, makes no difference in your body. If it's cold water, everything's permitted. Not like Rav Chizda. If it's hot water, nothing is permitted. So what do you mean v'chein by an oval? V'chein refers to the shoes. V'chein refers to other things, not to do with the bathing yourself. Taking one further, Toshba coming here. So we have no proof to Rav Chizda either way. Come here. Rabbi Abba HaKoyin said the name of Rabbi Yossi HaKoyin. Mais is a story once. Umeisai banav Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Chanina, the son of this children of Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina passed away. The rochat b'tzoyin kol shiva, and he bathed himself in cold water any time during the 7 days. So we see clearly from here that cold water is permitted for a mourner. Says the Gemara, that's a separate incident. You know what happened over there? It says bonav in plural. He lost more than one child. but they didn't pass away on the same day. One child passed away, and before the days of mourning elapsed, the second child passed away, tragically. So therefore, he didn't have a chance to bathe himself between the two sets of 7 days of mourning. So we allowed him to bathe himself with cold water between the 2 sets of 7 days. There we're talking about it that one in succession after another it happened, and therefore they gave him a special dispensation that he can go ahead and take a shower in cold water. But ordinarily, that maybe not allowed to take a shower for cold water. So the Gemara. So therefore, Rav Chizah could be right. You asked the question of Chizah, here was he clearly allowed to take a shower of cold water? So he says, no, maybe Rav Chizah is right, you're never allowed to, but here was a special exception. The Tanya we learned, and how do we know you make these exceptions? Could we learn Takfu Aveda If somebody has, unfortunately, 2 Avedas one after another, he could be excited, and suddenly he had too much hair on his head. Mekel Betar, he's allowed to take a haircut. Even though a mourner is not take a haircut, but in this case, you make a special dispensation. But the way Rashi learns is by using a razor, you're not doing it the normal way, and you're only doing a little bit. Mekel Betar means you only take a little bit of the hair off, and you're not using a scissor, which is the normal, as Gemara will say. You're doing it in an abnormal way. He's allowed to wash something in water so that he should have what to wear. So we make certain allowances, limited allowances between one Avelis and the next. The same thing happened here with Rabbi Chanina. But ordinarily, an Avel maybe he's not allowed to take a bath of cold water, just like Rabbi Chizah said. You can't prove one way or another. And the Gemara explains, Rabbi Chizah, Betar, the same Rabbi Chizah actually said, Betar, you can use a razor, but not normally cut your hair with a scissor. You use a razor and cut a little bit of hair. And by mine, we allow you to take a bath of water, not to use sand, not to use all these other chemicals to help you cleanse yourself. Just a basic clean. So Rav Chizah maintains his opinion that says that an Avel and Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to take a bath, hot water or cold water. But an Avel can wash his hands and face with cold water. Rava disagrees. Rava says, Avel mutter lirchit b'tzayin kol shiva. Rava disagrees with Chizah, according to this version of Rava, as we'll soon see. Rava says an Avel can bathe himself at least in cold water. The entire Avelis. Just like we allow an Avel to eat meat, just like we allow an Avel to drink wine. So too, we allow, certain pleasures we also allow him to take a bath, at least in cold water. Now, the truth of the matter is, a bath of cold water is not very pleasurable, as we said before. And eating meat, drinking wine is pleasurable. But nevertheless, there's a modicum of pleasure there that you get clean. So we allow you. Makes ask you a question. Let me ask it. It says, we're asking a question now, Rava. Ein habaygeres rasha. This is very interesting. The wording of the Bryce is very interesting, even though it means something else. But the wording, a baygeres is a girl, once she's 12 and a half years old, she takes life in her own hands, she takes matter in her own hand, and she has to look for a shidduch. While she's sitting in Avelis, not only is she permitted to continue pursuing her shidduch opportunities, a lot of people come in to wish condolences. She's not allowed to look ugly. Ein ha-baygeres rashoya l'navilas atzma. A baygeres is not permitted to look ugly while she's sitting Avelis for her father. It doesn't say that a baygeres is permitted to put on makeup, because she's looking for shidduch. She's not allowed to not to always look pretty. She always has to look in her best, so that people she has to take an active, I guess. They can take an interest in making herself look as attractive as possible, so that people will notice her and think about her for a shidduch. But Rashi said a girl under 12 years old has no mitzvah avelis whatsoever. Hanaida, but a girl between 12 and a half, Rasha. Girls between 12 and a half are still young, and also it's not totally her responsibility. Her father also have a joint responsibility, so therefore she's allowed to sit there without putting on makeup. Now, Tosfos already says the word Rasha here doesn't mean the way we just translated, which normally is permitted. It means that she's not obligated. She's not obligated. No, if she wants to put on makeup, she can. But the wording of the Brisa is very interesting. That she's not allowed to sit just like that without taking an interest. In other words, let's say men, we'll have a Migmar Kedushin, the dark ish lichboish, a man is one who goes out there to pursue a shidduch. A woman also has to take matters in hand and do what she can. She's not going to go pursue actively, but she has to make herself look attractive so that people will be interested in her. And it's a chila devolves on her. So it appears. Anyway, Bottom line is, but she's not allowed to look ugly. She has to. So right now we're assuming when it says you're not allowed to look ugly, she must take a shower and look and appear presentable. My love berechitza. We're talking about she's allowed to take a shower. In contrast to everybody else who shouldn't. What kind of shower we're talking about? Hot water, cold water. Are we talking about hot water? You think a begeris is allowed to take, allowed to do hot water? Ein begeris ashar. Says, you tell me that she must take a bath in hot water, but Achizah said, if somebody's mourning, she's not allowed to stick a finger out in hot water. And Rashi has two pshat in him when we talk about the avelos of a father. One pshat is that her father, let's say, her brother passed away, or her father's son passed away. But Rashi's second pshat is her own father passed away. She herself is mamish and avel. Yet she's allowed to take a bath. Now, if we're talking about hot water, how can she? The law is a law. Just because you want to look attractive, but you can't in any way, violate the law. The law says you're not allowed to even put your finger in hot water. So how can that be? And we're talking about cold water. We're talking about cold water that everybody else is not allowed to take a bath in cold water, but in her situation, she's a begeris, she's of the age, therefore she's allowed to take a bath in cold water. Doesn't that prove that Chizah is right, that an ordinary oval is not allowed to take a bath in cold water? She's an exception, and a question on oval. Says Malay, no. Who's talking about taking a bath? It says presentable is akichel pirchas. We're talking about over here, taking care of her eyebrows, or talking about painting yourself, putting on makeup, and making yourself look attractive. That's all it means. But taking a bath, maybe cold water, everyone's allowed, and hot water, no one is allowed. We're saying a special dispensation. We're not talking about bath. The special dispensation is as far as makeup is concerned. Says the Gemara, approved to Rav, that which we asked before, a question on Abchizda, we're going to use that as a proof to Rav. Now, Rav who holds that an oval can take a bath in cold water. Lame says, I bring a proof. The story we just learned before that his children died and he yet bathed in cold water the entire any day during the 7 days. But he tells me that what? That an oval is allowed to take a cold water bath. We said before, no proof from there. Like we said before, there's no question of chizuk, because the avelas happened in close succession to each other and didn't have a chance to do anything, so we made a special dispensation. How do we know that we do that? Because the time we learned, if it happened in succession, he should be decided too much hair, makel betar, you're allowed to use a shaver to cut some of it down. Plus, you can go ahead and launder your clothes with water. Betar with a razor, but not with a scissor. And no, not the normal way. And you're allowed to launder your clothes. Water, don't use any of these as kind of detergents that clean your clothes. There's another kind of an alloy. That's kind of these different kinds of chemicals that help you launder. You're not allowed to have to make a shili. So again, no proof from here, one way or another, because in that case over there, the reason why you're allowed to take a bath of cold water is because he had 2 periods of avelas in close succession. However, Ikadamri, there's another version of my Rava that Rava actually agrees with Rav Chizda. Aval Asr B'Tzayin Kol Shiva. An aval is forbidden cold water the entire 7 days. What about meat and wine? What's the difference? So the answer is very simple. You don't want to be allowed an aval to drink wine, and in fact, we'll have a more The only reason why the Abish created wine is so that avelim can calm down. This idea is that by drinking wine and meat, it sort of, in a way, helps you deal with your state of mind and with your sadness. It's there to remove some of your fear and some of your sadness. So therefore, it's beneficial. But bathing doesn't do that, and therefore, there's no need to have bathing. It's forbidden. Lema, now the Gemara again turn. Lema Messiah, let's bring a proof. That a proof to a Rava, which is a proof to Rav Chizda. Initially, we used it as a question to the first Rava, and now we're going to use it as a proof to Rava that cold water is forbidden for everybody because we make a special dispensation we allow by Geddes. Lema, interesting that when we talked to Rav Chizda, we didn't bring this Gemara as proof, but now I guess it's a later generation that brought this up. Lema Sayele, I bring a proof. It says, "Ain't a begelis is not allowed to deny herself the opportunity to make yourself look presentable." In other words, right now we're assuming she's allowed to take a cold water shower. Hot water for sure not, but cold water shower you can, which means in contrast to everybody else, they can't. Doesn't that support the Rava? The second version and Rav Chizda that an oval cannot take a cold water shower. She's allowed to make herself look unattractive. What do you mean not allowed to? He has to take a hot water bath. You're not allowed to even put a finger in hot water. Cold water. So we see the one that an oval, a general oval, is not allowed to wash in cold water. So we're like, no, we're talking about over here of makeup and taking care of our eyebrows and so on. We learn from all this, since we're talking about being attractive and painting yourself and so on. So from here, you learn also that an ordinary oval is not allowed to launder all 7 days. And the hilchos and the final halacha is oval aser lichas kol gufay. An oval is forbidden to bathe themselves. And in other words, whatever rules apply to makeup apply to laundry. And since we make a special dispensation for a begeres to put on makeup, we also allow her to launder. But everybody else, they shouldn't launder for those 7 days. So what's the final halacha, final analysis? A novel is not allowed to bathe himself, bein bechamin, where the hot water, bein betzayin, where the cold water, kol shiva, the entire shiva. Even cold water is forbidden. Aval, ponov, yodav, veragla, put hand and face, bechamin in hot water forbidden, but betzayin in cold water mutter. Aval lasach, to smear themselves, this is pleasurable. Then I feel the koshu also, even the slightest amount is forbidden. But the imla avers azoima, let's say the sweat, perspiration, and you want to remove that, you smear some oil, then mutter is permitted. Now the Gemara continued. Tanisa, when you daven on a tainus, we say anenu. When is the right time to say anenu in Shemona Esrei? We had an argument last time. We spoke about whether you do it all the 3 tefillahs or just do it by mincha, which is what we do. We don't want to do it by shachris. We don't want you to turn into a liar, whatever you don't make it. So we do it by mincha, and only the shliach tzibur does it by shachris because somebody will definitely fast the entire day. But where in davening do you insert it? A shliach tzibur makes a bracha, separate bracha. What about everybody else? What do we do? Shloisa, the tanisa, the davening of tainus, which is anenu. Heichemat krinan. Where do we mention it? Daven Yachid. This is what Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Yitzchak. Yachid shekibel olav tainus. If an individual took upon himself a fast, mispao shel tainus, you have to say anenu. V'heichen oimra. Where do you? Remember, we looked already yesterday that kibel olav tainus means by mincha the day before. And we do by Elakaina Tzar, and you should verbalize it. The Heichen Oimra, where do you say it? Bein Goy El LeReife. You make a separate bracha between Goyel and Reife, which is what we do today. The Chazan does that. Masko, his own son, turned to his father, and he said, I don't understand. Can a Yochi go ahead and go to add another bracha to Shemona Esrei in his davening? What you do is in the middle of Shemaya Tefillah, when you're allowed to add any other specific brachas or praise that you want to make, so you do is the insert of the anenu, but you still conclude with the bracha of Shemaya Tefillah. You just put in part of Shema Kalenu, and you put in there the anenu like we have in our Sidurim. Maisel asks a question. It says, it says it's no difference between the Yachid and the Tzibur. A Yachid davens 18 brachas. We refer to Shemona Esrei as 18 brachas, even though Lamashin was added on and there's 19 brachas, but that doesn't count because it's added on later. And Vizeh, on a fast day, Mispal Chayaseh. There's an extra bracha. What extra bracha is that? Ma Yachid and my Tzibur. What do you mean, first of all, individual and the public? Ilem Yachid Mamish means if you're davening on your own. Mitzibur means shots. The Baal Tefillah, you're davening your own Shemona Esrei. Baal Tefillah, Hani Chayaseh. The Baal Tefillah only davens 90 brachas. Esin va'arba. We'll learn later in the next period. We'll learn later on that there are 24 brachas that you say on the fast day, and here it says 19. So it can't be talking about the difference in an individual davening the quiet Shemona Esrei or a chas. Elalav. This is what he means. Hachikamer. Ein bein yachid the kibul olav tainus yachid. If a yachid took upon himself a private tainus, the yachid shekibul tainus, but a yachid took upon himself the law, the Bezdin decided that everyone should fast for the rain, or what it's called tainus tzibur, and every individual has to take the tainus on himself. So there's no difference between the two. As Shazem Mispal Shemona Esrei, this guy davens only if an individual took upon himself an individual fast, then you don't make an extra bracha. But if you're taking upon yourself a tiny tzibur, you daven a 19th bracha. What is that 19th bracha? Anenu. So isn't it clear from here that anenu is a bracha on its own? So Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Yitzchak, doesn't this prove that it's another bracha. Shmami no yochid kaveh bracha last, but doesn't prove that a yochid also has a bracha. But like no, no. La'olam emlach shlich tzibur. The difference between yochid and tzibur is yochid your own shmanesra, and your own shmanesra you never have a 19th bracha. It's always part of Shema Kaleinu. But the chazan about tefillah, when he repeats the Shemini, he does it as a separate bracha, as we have it now. I the kashalach shleitzibur hakol be tomash shleitzibur. What do you mean 19 brachas? At 24. Esrim va'arba masli. That 24 brachas. So he answers begimel tainis l'shoinus the leka esrim rabba. We're talking about, remember, the first set of 3 fast is a normal Shemini. It's the second set of 3 that you daven extra, and here we're talking about the first set of 3. So there's only the regular Shemini, and but the shliach tzibur does an extra bracha, additional bracha for anein. Says you're telling me that it says you're telling me that the first set of 3 tainis, if you don't make 24 brachas, how can that be? It says it says there is no difference at all between the first set of 3 and the next, only regarding work. Ein Bain means this is the only difference. Now you're telling me there's another difference. That in the first set you only daven normal Shemini, the second set you daven 24. So there's more than one difference. So you ask the question: how can you tell me that the first set of 3 you don't daven 24 brachas? Well, Ein Bain Tani. It says clearly the words there is no difference. Ein Bain Gimel Rishonim. So it says like this: there's no difference between the first set. Remember, there's 3 set brackets of fast. First set is 3, the second set is 3, and the last set is 7. The first set of 3, it's the set which only Yichidim fast, only Tamid Chamim. The first set of 3 and the second set, the only difference is the Elu Mutari Basi is Malacha, you're allowed to work in the first set of 3, Uve Elu Asuri Malacha. But in the second set, you're not allowed to work. Sounds like that's the only difference. Holachav Dalu Zev. When it comes to the 24 brachas, it's exactly the same. So what are you telling me that there's a difference? Says the Gemara, no. You know why? Ton of Vishaya. There is more than one difference. It only mentions one. And the only time we can say that there's more than one difference, he mentions one, is if there's at least another 2 differences. So we say the mission is not bothering to explore all the differences, but it only sachakal 2, and he mentions one, he should have mentioned the other. So you want to my shai the high shai, what else is missing? Furthermore, ain bain tani still bothers me. It says ain bain, which sounds like it's limited only to that. Says the Gemara, Elotona be suda kamaya, particularly my Altana is trying to find the differences between what's prohibited and not. Here work is prohibited, here work is not permitted. We're not talking about the formula of davening. What are you saying? So therefore, there's no the first set is there's no anenu whatsoever. So there's no there's no anenu whatsoever. And so we're talking, and then when it says over here the difference is 19 or 18, is the difference that Tzibur Chazan, he does 19, but individual they only do 18. And we're talking about the first set where the Shliach Tzibur also does only 18 brachas. It does 19 and not the 24. Or another answer I can give you is that even the middle set, there's no 24, there's only 18. Therefore, when it says here there's no difference between the first and second except work, it's correct. Because the first set you only do 18 brachas, and the second set you don't do 18 brachas. It's only the third set of 7 that you do 24. I says, what are we talking about? How can that be? But Tanya, we learned Ein Bain Gimel Shni the Shabbat. The only difference between the middle 3 and the last 7 is Shebe'ela Masi, and this one here you blow the trumpets, the noilas, the chanuyas, and you shut the stores down. Whole of them, it seems to be everything else. Zev is Shavin. And since the last set, everyone agrees you do 24 brachas. Sounds like the said, also you do 24 brachas. The Chitev, if you can tell me Hachanami Tana V'Shaya, if you can tell me no, that there's some other things missing as well. But Ein Bain Tani, the fact is it uses the word Ein Bain is very limited. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? But Tizbon asks a question. You think you're being so pedantic. You're telling me that Ein Bain means Dafka only, there's no other difference except this and that. So therefore, what do you call it? That you're going to say the middle set is also 24. And Tzibur and Yachid cannot be talking about a Shliach Tzibur because then it wouldn't be 19 bracha, it would be 24. I'll tell you no. V'Hoshaya, I'll tell you. Let's forget about this thing about the bracha separate out. There's another thing. V'Hoshaya table. We know that in the second set, in the last set, they put they're taking a big table outside and they all daven outside, outdoors, and you don't do that in the middle set. So there's another difference. He says Ein Bain. Well, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. It's not considered missing out. You know why? Mila the tzinic time tells you things you're doing shul, the privacy, but Mila the vahesel time, things out in the public is not talking about that. It does not exploring that. So therefore, there's no raya. And my point here is that the second set and the third set are exactly the same, and therefore there's 24 bracha in the second set as well. The Mishnah proves the Torah says, Ma elu. I'll just finish quickly. The Mishnah also will prove it. That the middle set, you also have 24 brachas. So we'll go back to the first answer we gave, that we're talking about the first set, and the first set is no 24 brachas, and the Chazans want to add an extra neinu as a bracha, and the rest don't. I says a pain. There are other things missing out as well. So we answered that. Forget about the name. We're only talking about matters to do with what's forbidden and what's not forbidden. Not talking about that. Instead of Asha, prove to the middle one, you also do 24 brachas. But see, Lamideka proved in the Mishnah. It says electronic ma elu yisaydas. What does the last set of 7 have more than the middle set of 3? And it mentions elu masri, and then following, the last set you blow trumpet, and you shut the store down. But every other respect exactly the same. So we see that every other respect, including the 24 brachas, is the same. So the middle set of 3 and the last set of 7, you have 24 brachas. Why can't we argue, say over here, that there are things missing when they say, what does it have more? But there are more other things. For example, the table. You take the thing outside, doesn't mention that. It says clearly, what is it? But teaser ma'elu dafku, if you're going to tell me ma'elu means these limited to only these differences, well, the fact is, it doesn't mention that another difference is that in the third bracket you'd bring the table outside and you'd have an outdoors, and here it doesn't mention that. I'll tell you, table is not considered. He missed out because it's mentioned in the next parak in the details of what they actually did during the fast days. It says their table, the Mishnah here didn't bother. Oh, now that you're telling me we can rely on the next parak, you want to know why really the middle bracket also davens 24 brachas. You know why it doesn't mention it? It says Ein Bein, it doesn't mention it. Because it's mentioned in the other parak. So Gemara concludes. Bottom line, do we say our name as a separate bracha? They all say that we do it as a separate bracha, not just about tefillah, but everyone. However, Rav Ashi, Omar Mashmei de Rabbi Yanai, Berei de Rabbi Shmuel, Rav Ashi named Rabbi Yanai, named son of Rabbi Shmuel, B'Shemei Tefillah. You say it in Shemei Tefillah. The Hilchasa, the halach is like we do it today, B'Shemei Tefillah. It's the Chazan who says it by B'Chibur L'Roifei, but we say it by Shemei Tefillah.